What's up, guys? Blaise here. I'm going to be doing this one from the car today. Blaise for a podcast coming at you today. I want to talk to you about escaping high control groups.
Run.
Okay, getting out and escaping high control groups. And really, I could call this what to do if you realize, when you realize that you're in a high control environment. All right, first and foremost, I want to address the idea of what does it mean to be in a high control environment. First and foremost, on top of that, I'll say I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a licensed professional on the therapy or psychology side or anything like that. I'll just say I'm just a person that has experience in some of this stuff and has had many conversations with many people. So do not take this advice as professional advice if you've gone through trauma or intense situations like this. I would encourage you to seek professional help. That said, let's dive into some of the content. I would encourage you to listen to testimonies and listen to stories about narcissistic abuse or high control groups or cult-like behavior, and listen to people's testimonies, okay? One thing that people are afraid of about listening to people's testimonies, they go, well, I don't want to deconstruct. I don't want to this, that, and the other. Trust me, guys, there is nothing. The problem with deconstruction is, in my opinion, is when people leave the traditional faith, like Christianity as a whole. That's just my opinion. You might be of the opinion that it's better to leave the faith. That's fine if that's what you want to do. That is not my goal for people. My goal is to help people come to a healthy spirituality, a healthy faith that is the apostolic gospel, the traditional Christian faith. Yes, there are hundreds of denominations, but at the end of the day, guys, the faith is way more simplistic and it's not high control, okay? There's not an apostle that is here today leading all of us and controlling all of our activities, etc. All right, so don't be afraid to listen to stories, because that is one of the things that will help you find out. Oftentimes it will reveal and unpack layers of possible situations in your life where you are being controlled, or you have cult-like tendencies, or you in a cult-like group, etc. Okay, so listen to stories and listen with empathy. And even if somebody has landed somewhere different in their final ideas of a denomination idea, or whether it's about spiritual gifts or continuationists versus cessationists, or maybe they've gone to a completely, different faith overall, like, listen with empathy, because there's a reason why people land where they land eventually. All right. So listen and see if you find like similar patterns happening where you are that have happened where these people are, right? And if you see similar tendencies, take note of them. And then look at the level of intensity of it, right? Sometimes there might be a tactic that's been used in your church or organization or small group, and you're like, that is very concerning. Well, maybe it's not happening all the time, but I would say, at what level has it happened? If it's happened to you or you've noticed it, then the likelihood of it happening to others is highly likely. I'll give you an example. When we were at our former church, I remember seeing, I had something happen to me where I was told by the pastor to meet with him. He asked me to meet with him and to have coffee with him before church. So I showed up for coffee and he wasn't there. Two other people were there, and they were very somber when I came in the room. They were very somber and very strange, and he wasn't there. And he finally showed up, but when he showed up, he said, these people have been having dreams about you, and we've gotten many prophetic words about you. And basically they were trying to get me to join the inner circle of the church, and their dreams were leading to that, and their visions and all the stuff was leading to that. And we were at about capacity of what we could be involved. We went every Sunday. I was on the worship team, and there was a lot that we were doing, but we were about the capacity that we could be involved, because, we had little kids and all the stuff. But it was one of the most odd things that I found is, if somebody sets up a meeting with you and you end up meeting with other people, that is a tactic of control and manipulation, because they are bringing you into a situation where it's called getting hijacked or triangulated. And so, especially if what they're confronting you on is a dream or a vision that has no fact or basis in reality, you are likely in a cult-like high control group.
Run.
Okay, so my point is not to point out that tactic in particular, although it's huge, but I would say my point is to say, I saw that happen with me. I had never seen it happen with others, But later, it wasn't until another 6 to 9 months later that I heard stories of that happening to at much higher levels and much more often. And in fact, there was apparently 10 years of those types of tactics that had happened and had been outed and confronted without any resolve or without any teachability or humility. So if you notice something happen to you or to a friend, pay attention and don't just write it off as an excuse. Well, they're just like that, or maybe that was just random. Pay attention, take note of it. Another thing to pay attention to would be if you're always hearing messages about gossip and slander. If you're always hearing messages that gossip and slander are the most intense and most egregious sins, then you are likely in a high control group, high control cult like tendency group. Because one thing that cult like groups say and are concerned about, are fearful of, is people talking. They don't want anybody talking. They don't want anybody sharing their story. And if they share their story, then they call it gossip. If they hear a bad story about a leader or even a mid-level leader or a disagreement, then they call that gossip. They call it slander. And so if you start hearing messages like this, know that you are likely, as a group, being groomed to protect the person at the top, to protect the system from people that are whistleblowers or have a story of oftentimes very legitimate problematic abuse within these cultures. Okay, so watch out for that. If you're always hearing about people saying, hey, don't gossip, don't slander. Yeah, I don't think gossip or slander is a good idea. It's actually a terrible idea. But to call everything gossip and slander just because people are sharing their stories, a quote, I don't remember, I think it's I can't remember who the quote is. I think it was from Brene Brown, and I'm not like a big fan of hers or her theology or anything like that. But I just remember this quote, and I actually valued the quote. It said, if people, my wife shared it with me years ago. She said, if people wanted you to talk better about them, they should have acted better with you. They should have treated you better. And I think there is a lot of truth to that. Okay. When we read in the scriptures, we don't see a cleaned up scripture at the end of the 66 books. We don't see a Bible written for generations and generations and generations to come that's cleaned up of all bad stories about the individuals within the Bible. No, we get pretty much the whole thing. And so was God disrespecting Moses to put Moses' stuff in there? No, he wasn't. He was actually showing the reality of human being flaws, people with flaws, as well as people that are evil and twisted and distorted. False teachers get called out by name. Paul calls out Peter to his face. Then he not only calls him out to his face, but he sends a letter about it to a different church. And is like, hey guys, I called out Peter to his face. Oh, let me tell you the details. Is Paul gossiping? No, he's not gossiping. He's telling the truth about what happened, warning not just about Peter, but warning about the activities of Peter and the mindset of Peter that actually could become leaven within the church across the world. And he's saying, this is not good. And yes, it was Peter that did it. And yes, I called him out to his face. And no, I'm not saying Peter was a false teacher. I'm just saying he was about to lead everybody away from the gospel, right? It's okay to speak. It's okay to talk. It's okay to actually have these conversations, all right? Yes, there are times where things need to be confronted privately, dealt with privately, but oftentimes when you have a leadership dynamic, a power dynamic of a leader that is always silencing people from telling their stories, then usually it's because that story could bring problems for the leader, and that leader doesn't want that to happen. How about we just let the truth be told, let people know the truth, and the truth sets us free ultimately. Okay. All right. So the constant messaging about gossip and slander, that is dangerous. Okay. Run from that. These are not just things that are in churches or religious groups. One of the things that I found is people that come out of these groups often carry the same type of activity into other groups that they join, whether that's small groups or small church plants or people that leave a church to plant another church. And I'm not indicting anybody or that does that. That's a very normal thing, and it's a good thing to do. If you're in one of these types of churches, you often got to go somewhere else. You got to find somewhere else to go, and sometimes that means like getting with a group that is planting a church, whatever. My point is not to say that. My point is to say that in groups that often leave other groups, you will find similar tendencies because you're trying so hard not to be like that one, but you end up being like that one. And so these are things that you have to watch out for, especially if you've been the victim of a cult environment, it is very easy to go away and find another group just like it that is in reaction to that group, but end up being even more cult-like. That can happen even in people that completely deconstruct from the faith because of their negative experience within a church environment cult. And so now they've completely deconstructed, and they're mad at anybody else that doesn't keep deconstruct like them. And they end up treating people bad because they're not as good of an advocate as them, or they're not as good of a whistleblower as them, or they're not as good of a whatever as them. And if you find yourself in, and this is why, personally for me, I don't really like getting into lots of text threads or chat threads with lots of people that have left certain groups, whether that was like IHOP Kansas City where I came from, or even, you know, the Garden Greenville where we came out of like about a year and a half ago. That was, we found out was pretty cult like and we didn't realize it. My wife probably sniffed it out before I did, for sure. But I don't want to be like in groups that are always just talking about those groups, because before you know it, you'll find yourself in a group that is very cult-like in its behavior. All right. And so I'm not saying don't fellowship with people that come out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying pay attention to the way that that the new group that's forming, pay attention to the way that that group is handling people that don't agree with them or agree with their position on what happened at that former group. Because before you know it, you could find yourself with somebody that has, you know, a group of 20, 30, 40, 100 people in their, you know, Twitter thread or their Facebook group or their, you know, whatever, where they're just another group that's almost like high control cult-like behavior. I hear these testimonies a lot. We've heard these testimonies a lot of this type of stuff. So watch out for that type of thing. What is, and this is not extensive by any means or exhaustive by any means on things to watch out for, but I would say, what do you do when you see these type of things? I want to say, oh, it's not that hard. It's really easy. Just get out. It's simple. It's really not that simple, but it is, but it's not, because high control groups, trauma bonding, all that kind of thing, you know, even within a spiritually abusive community, because you're trying to always please your quote spiritual authority and running, there's all these warnings of what could happen if you leave the group, and they point to people that have had problems or sickness or even worse, or failing marriages because they left the group, and they point to those people as a reason why, you know, you shouldn't leave the group and why they are the anointed of God or the chosen of God and these people are not, etc. So I'm going to say, what do you do when you notice these things? What do you do when you notice these patterns? Guys, it's not easy, but I'm just going to say it. You bounce. You roll. You peace out. That's what you have to do. It's the only way. It's the only way, guys. And some might say, well, go have a conversation with the pastor. Go sit down with this person and that person and confront them about this, that. Yes, sometimes if you feel comfortable doing that. But a lot of times, guys, I see people go do that stuff, and then they get caught in more meetings and more meetings and more meetings and more meetings, and then more prophetic warnings and more twisting of scripture to make you feel stuck there. And then they end up stuck even worse. So what I would say, when you notice these patterns, you notice this type of thing, you notice this type of control, people that want to know, kind of another thing to watch out for, people that want to know your every move, what you're doing in your job, suggesting what you do at a new job, leave a certain job, or what you're doing in your marriage. That is not healthy. You are autonomous. You are loved by God. You are an individual that you can go and take yourself elsewhere where you feel comfortable, or nowhere if you're not ready to go anywhere yet, but you just got to get out of there. So I'm going to tell you, run. That is what you've got to do. You've just got to run and not look back. Where you run to is very important as well, and pay attention to the consistent tactics that you just came from, and make sure you don't join yourself to another group that carries those exact same tactics and those exact same things. And one of the worst things, I'll kind of end with this, the worst thing that I see happen is oftentimes we become what we despise. And so I would encourage you not to, over time, as you're able, forgive those who mistreated you, forgive the spiritually abusive environment, all that stuff, as best as you're able. Try to let go. Go through some therapy if you have to. There's nothing wrong with that, because you've got to heal, and that takes time, and you've got to let go, and that takes time. But as you do that, you will allow yourself not to eventually become like the very thing you despised. And you'll be able to have compassion for them, not trust them again. Like, I'm never going around this, that, or the other again, or this person, that person. I'm never going around that again. Why? Because I don't trust them, right? That would be the conversation within your own heart. I don't trust them. That's okay not to trust them. You trust the Lord. You trust other people in your life. You don't have to trust those people that caused that situation or created that environment for you. But the nicest thing to do is not to hate them or despise them, but to heal in your own heart so that you don't end up becoming like them. I hope this is helpful for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. If you like this video, comment below. Let me know your thoughts if this was helpful. Let me know your thoughts if there's other things you would suggest doing in these types of scenarios or situations, or if you want to tell your story in there. Go for it in the comment section. We appreciate it. Guys, real quick, I just want to give a shout out to all of you and say thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate you guys plugging into this channel on the Blaise for a podcast. I'm expanding just different types of content that I'm doing, different types of reaction videos. And I appreciate your support. Appreciate you plugging in. Appreciate your subscribe, all the stuff. Wanted to let you know, as usual, this episode is brought to you by Wake Up and Win Life Insurance. So I am an independent life insurance agent. I've been working in the life insurance industry for a little bit over 9 years now, just this month in August. And I love getting to do what I do. I'm contracted with close to 20 to 25 different life insurance companies. They're all A-rated. And the nice thing is I have the access to do pretty much any type of strategy. The majority of the strategies available within life insurance. If you're the type of person that's like, dude, I just want the cheapest term life on the block, I can get that for you, as long as you go through the proper background checks and all that stuff, medical, all that stuff to get it. We can get you the cheapest life insurance, term life insurance on the block. If you're like, hey, dude, I got a few health issues, but I still want some term life insurance, I can get you non-medically underwritten term life insurance. As long as you haven't had major health issues, I can usually get you in at a standard rate. If you're the type of person that says, dude, I've had major health issues, but I still need some life insurance, I can get that done. Usually 90% of the time, I can get it done. All right. If you're the type of person that's looking for ways to put money into safe accounts that are very conservative and be your own bank, like infinite banking ideas, like index universal life or cash value life insurance, participating whole life, I can do those types of strategies. I've got folks that say, man, I need an annuity to park my money for a tax deferred coming out of my 401k. After I left my job, I need to park the money and keep it tax deferred, but give it growth options, or give options to do lifetime income based off of my 401k that I can move into an annuity, etc. I had a great conversation with a CPA the other day who I'm helping him with his life insurance, and he said, man, you're like a life insurance strategist. And honestly, it was a really encouraging thing that he said, because frankly, that's what I want to be for people. I want to help families protect the most important thing in their life, which is their family. Give them peace of mind in the worst case scenario, but also come up with strategies that help people with long-term planning for their financial peace of mind in the life insurance side. We can do lump sum rollovers of qualified accounts for IRAs into annuity IRAs, etc. So just wanted to lay out what I do. Book below. I've helped tons of our clients. I've helped tons of our listeners. And frankly, it's my favorite people to work with is people that watch this content and plug into this content. And many that have said, man, I've been watching you for two years now, year and a half, 2 years, and finally it's time to get life insurance, whatever. So guys, appreciate your support. Appreciate you guys watching. This is the tent maker side of things for me. This is what I do full time, which is life insurance. So if you need a consultation just to have a conversation to find out what your options are, or to go over your current policy, click the link below. It's calendly.com/Blaise4A. Really simple. Calendly.com/Blaise4A, and book an appointment and be happy to have a conversation. All right, guys, that said, God bless you guys, and we'll talk soon. Peace.